Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to Broadscast.
Hi, we're here in studio.
I'm Jackie McDougall.
I'm Kim Goldman.
That's it.
That's it. That's
Have a
all
great
we have.
day.
Yeah, bye.
All right. So, there's so much to talk about today.
I know, I'm super excited.
I'm super excited. But before we get to anything else, we have to thank our sponsor, Stark Social. They are a social marketing firm with an emphasis on small business, startups, and nonprofit organizations with budgets of all shapes and sizes. Thanks to our sponsors at Stark Social.
That sounds like a tongue
We
twister.
heart you. We love them. They are so good. And they
Awesome.
they do our website. So we have a personal reason, a personal connection to this today's sponsor. So in other business, before we get to everything, you've got to subscribe on YouTube. You know why? Because you may hear us in this podcast. Kim's making faces at me already. So you may hear us, but you can actually see us on YouTube and subscribe to our videos, and you can see our guests. And last week you weren't here, and we had a guest host.
You can see my slobby shirt
Yes.
today. It's actually
Yes.
meant to be a little slobby, but I'm realizing that I look extra slobby.
Yeah, slobby. Is that a
Slobby.
word?
Sloth.
So also we are now currently on Spreaker. Did you know this?
I did know this.
Yes, I got my Spreaker on this week and uploaded
I have
our
no idea.
podcast.
We're trying to break the internet. We say this every week.
Yes.
I don't know what Spreaker is,
I don't
but
want to
we're
break
going to
the
go
internet
check it
because
out.
then no one could hear us. So Twitter, we are Broadscast Show, and as well as Instagram, we are Broadscast. We need to make that just consistent all across. But seriously, all you have to do is search for Broadscast, and then when it says, "Do you mean broadcast?" you're like, "No, I don't. I mean Broadscast." So I had 2 cups of coffee.
I was just going to say you're in a mood this morning. I like it. Yeah. Good stuff.
So later on in the show, we are going to talk to Dr. Carol Lieberman.
Do you remember that she was
on our very
first show before we were
show.
here at KHTS? She was on our very first show.
We were on a different network, and we did
talked
a show
about
in
snooping because I just been dumped. Actually, I just dumped a guy because he was cheating on me. We talked about snooping.
He dumped you back because you had snooped on him.
And then he told me that he couldn't be with me because he couldn't trust me.
Right.
Because I snooped.
Do you know that was
That's funny. Anyway.
do you know that was back in 2011?
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah. So I want to apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of a break in my voice. I was gone, as you reminded us, that in Tennessee, having my football weekend, which you said I listened to the beginning of the show, and you said I was off playing football. But I was in Tennessee for my annual football trip with my girlfriend, and I came back with a hoarse voice.
Let's just clarify, though, your girlfriend is a girl who's a friend.
Yes, my best friend Denise.
Yeah, although it would make things happen. Maybe the guys would then be like calling up, like, "Hey, Kim." Yeah, isn't that interesting? Why don't you tell them you're not interested? Anywho, Kim's still single, just FYI, in case we didn't get it out there this week. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were there, and how was it?
It was great.
You were on the field with, like, the Tennessee Titans.
I was on the field. I have very nice people in my life that do good things for me. I forget that when you ask, people often say yes. Mm-hmm. So I did. We were able to go down by the field and take pictures with all these players who, between me and you, and whoopsie doodles, I had no idea who they were, so I was asking the little boy that was sitting next to me.
And yet you had a Titans shirt on. It's like, what do you buy a different shirt for every...
So here's what we do. So Denise and I are football fans, and so every year we pick a different city, and we immerse ourselves into the city. So the first year we did it was New Orleans. We became Saints fans.
Right.
And then the second year was Houston. We became Texans fans. This year we did Nashville and became Titans fans. And next year I'm going for Green Bay. I want to be a Packer
When are you
fan.
coming to New England?
We're going to. We have lots of cities we're
Oh,
trying
but
to.
I wouldn't be invited anyway.
So we try to do cities that we haven't been to yet. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to hit those cities first, and then we're going to try to double up because there's a lot of places that we need to visit.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, so this year I was a Titans fan.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Good luck to your Titans. I have no idea.
They lost.
Sad. Yeah. So, okay, back to where we were, though. Dr. Carol Lieberman will be on the next segment talking about Jennifer Lawrence and what's going on there, and women's, equality, gender equality in payment, and why we are constantly like, no, that's okay.
Shortchanging
Not
ourselves,
going
getting
for
our own way.
I have to say, honestly, in my life, that is the one area that I don't do. Like, I'm worth what, and often people will pay it. Ask me about other things and I'm totally insecure, but when it comes to money and profession, I'm good, I think. So let's get to some other topics.
All right.
Look at her. She's all like, whatever. And we also have some questions for Dr. Lieberman from
Some of
our listeners. And so if you have a question, message us on Facebook or Twitter, or I think maybe you could call 661-298-5487, but it's probably more likely that you can get through the social media channels. Okay, so
I have
go ahead.
Target first. No, I was going to say, Playboy called.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they do not want me to do any nudity.
That's right. But here's the deal. Didn't Playboy actually ask you at one point? We discussed this.
We discussed it. I think, there was some
I
conversation.
asked you if you would ever do Playboy. And now Playboy's just announced
that they're doing no nudity.
Or at least not full nudity.
No, I thought it was no nudity.
At all?
Yeah, no nudity.
No breasts?
They're now no boobies. Am I allowed to say that? No nudity. They're trying now to. They want
We've had our hand slapped so many times by the radio.
They want to be
We're
more
like,
mainstream.
can I say and?
They want to be more mainstream. They think it will increase their advertising dollars if they removed the nudity element. And plus, they were saying that with so much nudity on the internet and porn the way that it is, that
it's so readily
people don't buy it
available
anymore, and that they want to be able to compete with Esquire and GQ and those kinds of magazines.
So it's an adult themed magazine.
It's still it's still for men. I mean, I know there's great articles, but they really.
I always thought that was just a punchline. I go for the articles.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, that's happening in 2016.
So
I think Playboy.com, I think they've been doing, there's no nudity on Playboy.com. So now, and they were seeing that the increase in hits every month and their revenue dollars that were being generated by their internet was really kind of the launching pad.
But they still have nudity on Playboy TV. We'll have to get Wendy Miller, who's over there in programming at Playboy TV, to come on.
Playboy TV is different though than.
Yeah. But I'm just curious if it's changing direction at all,
Based on what Wendy shares on Facebook, I don't think so.
Not anytime soon. But speaking of adult themed, so this woman is pushing her twins in Target the other day up in Northern California, and all of a sudden over the loudspeaker, she hears an adult movie, a porn, playing, like just the audio.
Did you listen to the video?
I just for a few minutes.
It was pretty funny.
Like just at first because you could hear like the.
So she
you could very quickly tell that it was an adult.
And I guess this is where I separate myself from the hovering parent. I was busting up, and maybe it's because my son is a little bit older, but listening to it, I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'd be peeing my pants if I were in the aisle listening to this, like boom chaka, like walking down. I think I would have gotten my groove on a little.
Yeah, but it went for a while. Like
they said 15 minutes.
Oh no!
15 minutes, and they said.
Wait, but how did it go for 15 minutes without somebody at Target like running into that booth and tackling? Like,
so the woman was saying that she was pushing, and the kids were crying and so upset. I'm like, really? So, mommy, why are those men hurting that woman? I'm like, Anyway, what the woman reported was that there were Target employees that were standing around on the side laughing and using their cell phones to record it.
Oh.
And then finally it got to the GM. I don't know how long. She said 15 minutes, but
well, how long was the video that you were hearing it?
They just did a clip. I mean, it was just a snippet for the news. I'm just saying.
Oh, you didn't hear her video, like the whole thing?
No. But she just said it was. So my question to you is, why didn't she run and tell the manager? She was recording and she was dealing with her kids, but why didn't she make her way to go tell somebody?
Yeah,
why was she listening
to? So upset. Why'd she stand there?
Yeah,
because everybody wants to sue later for
traumatization.
Yes.
So anyway, turns out that it happened in another Target store down in another Northern California store. I'm not exactly sure how close it was in proximity to this particular store. So now they're looking into it. These women want nothing more than just another apology.
They should change the name of the store from Target to G-Spot. I don't know. Nothing?
Crickets? Gotta laugh out of Peter.
Yeah. Peter,
I think
what do we call you? You're our engineer extraordinaire, producer, spiritual advisor. Yeah. Peter, are you talking to the mic if you're talking to us? We love Peter.
What would you do if you were in the store? We have a girlfriend, right? Am I allowed to ask that?
You have a girlfriend.
You have a girlfriend.
Yes.
So if you were walking...
But we both have girlfriends.
Okay.
I thought that's what we were talking about.
No, we're talking about Target and pornography.
You just said that.
Like Kim doesn't have a girlfriend.
Oh,
she has a girl who's a friend.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're in Target and you're with your girlfriend and you started to hear this over the intercom, what would you do?
I would leave. I would be laughing and I'd be leaving, but it'd be... I can see how it was bad I used to work at Target also.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I can
Target.
tell you that it's not surprising that all those people you said weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
recording
Those
each
were your-
other.
those were your
The thing is-
coworkers?
The thing is it's run by
Props to
kids.
my peeps.
It's
Yeah.
run by kids. There's some places, Magic Mountain, or
Right.
there's places where there's a lot of kids and they all have their cell phones, and that's the first thing that happens. It all gets on the internet, and there's like 15 different angles of the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
See, I think you, Jackie, would go you would berate somebody if that was you in the store. If you were with your kids, not if you were by yourself.
If I were by myself, I'd just start dancing or something.
Yeah, but, if you were with your
if I
kids.
were with my kids, I would wheel them up to I don't know,
bad. That's scary. I
a
would
two-way
feel
mirror.
so
You know those
awkward.
offices that they have where they can see out and you can't see, and I'd be the crazy lady. No, but I'd be like, open that office. Yeah, I would totally. Who just sits there? So
It's such a disturbing kind of weird because the kids are just crying so perfectly timed. Like
Yeah.
they both look at and they just instantly
You don't see
start
the
bursting into tears. It's
Right?
like, you can't really hear everything that's going on.
Right.
You just know it's bad. It's just a generally bad.
You don't see the mom
environment.
pinching them behind the arms to get them to
It's
cry.
just she's trying to leave, and I'd probably do the same thing about my kids. They would just want to leave.
Yeah.
They'd be a little silly, I guess.
Yeah, I might
Yeah, I
flip
don't
on
know.
my phone as I walk through the store just because.
I guess I'm just not that
But
sensitive.
that's a thing
I don't
that
know.
happens.
No,
Kids-
but you.
kids do
Yeah, but
that.
you would just sit there. Though
I wouldn't sit there. They continued to shop, though. These women didn't leave the store. They continued to shop.
Right. But what would you do if you were in that?
If I was
and you were
that
with Sam?
upset and my kids were that upset, I would leave. They continued to shop.
Right.
So I kind of,
Yeah.
I have
I don't
something
think-
inappropriate to say, but it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? I just sort of, it diffuses the argument of how upset you were if you continue to shop while your kids are freaking
Right,
out
right.
while there's porn playing. Like, come on. There's a lot of things that play here that don't make any sense to me.
Kids don't even understand.
But her impression, though, her kids were freaking
Weren't
out.
they, like,
they're
5 years old or
Yes, they
something?
had their hands over their ears, like crying. Then I would leave if that was the reaction that my kids had. But she
yeah.
continued to shop. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
I know.
I don't know.
And let's be honest, the sales are not that good at Target that you need to just stay.
Well,
So anyway,
maybe put her in a better mood. Maybe there was an increase in sales in the lingerie department.
right. Anyway,
I don't know.
So,
So-
yeah, that's enough of that, right?
Yeah.
What else you got, Lamar?
Oh, you want to go, Lamar?
Let's go, Lamar. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit with Dr. Lieberman in a
Yeah.
bit. But I wrote on my Facebook this morning. It's amazing. There's a specific
Lamar Odom, for people that don't remember.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Lamar Odom, basketball player, married
Yes.
to a member of the family that shall not be named.
Yes. He was a very good basketball player. That's what he's known for. That was what I posted this morning. There was an ESPN clip about how people are only remembering him for his relationship with that family that we don't speak of.
Yeah, he was he was a success in his own and is
Before them, yeah.
So on the Lakers and so I have no ties to him. I have no alliance or allegiance or any. But I saw a post this morning by a very popular morning show, national morning show that I won't name because sometimes you do media and I don't want to create a bad But it was like how much the article was all about how much he spent at the brothel where he was found unconscious.
You said you were good with money.
What's that?
You mentioned that you were really good with money.
Yeah.
I'm good with money?
Yeah,
Oh.
so it makes sense that you're reading about the financial part. Someone's gonna be smart.
No, but it's not. The point is,
if it's the same clip that I saw,
I didn't click on it because I refused.
Oh, I did because I'm pretty sure I know who you're referring to. Nancy Grace, and is that
No,
the
no.
Nancy Grace clip was terrible. And Nancy
I
Grace
would never
has been-
protect Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace has been very good to me and my family. However, she was ridiculous in this interview that she did with the owner of the Bluff
yes,
Ranch.
yes.
And she was very condemning and it was in her normal tone, but she focused a lot about the money and all the hookers that he was with, and I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a part of the story. But the part that the part
he wasn't doing anything illegal. The drugs are illegal, but he wasn't doing. That's allowed
Right.
there,
Right.
And he
Right.
was having a good time. Sure, he should not be doing drugs, but the guy is a tortured soul.
Right.
Who forget the fact that he's affiliated with that family, like he was before. And I can't imagine being around them makes you any better. But he's a human being. So just sit there while the guy is like probably on life support and clinging. Right. They have no idea. I mean, I can't even imagine that this will have a positive outcome
Right.
for him. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how much money he's spending on, on his weekend. Like, it's just, that's what's happening to the media. And I'm not talking about Nancy Grace, who lives off of that. I'm talking about the Today Show. The Today Show, who I think sometimes tries to do stories that will add to your life. Like, this just seemed a little bit TMZ for me.
Yeah.
That they would go there even.
Well, I think to omit it, though, doesn't tell the whole story. I think if I was going to play devil's advocate, I think that it shows you his state of mind. It shows you where he was at, what he was committing to, like the scene for that weekend. And maybe that
don't
plays
you think brothel, drugs, you've already set the scene.
Right.
I don't know if it was $5,000 or $500,000.
Yeah.
Like, I know he was at a brothel doing drugs. Like,
right.
Okay, he's in a bad place, perhaps.
Right. So my kid, because we do this thing every morning now that he needs to watch the news in the morning, and so then we do, on his way to school, he has to tell me what he learned. And so I said, well, what did you learn this morning? This was 2 days ago. And he said, Lamar Odom was doing drugs. And I said, well, did you understand where that was? And he said, I don't know, a brothel? And I said, you know what a brothel is? And he said, no. And I said, well, that's where men, brothel sprouts. I said, that's where men, I don't think women can go there. Men go there to pay to have sex with women. And he says, well, isn't it ironic that he was passed out the whole time? Which is funny from my 12-year-old. But my feeling about the whole thing about Lamar is that why people have been so supportive and wanting to send their prayers to him in his time of need and tragedy. But when other people who are addicted to drugs or have mental health illness, people shun that, they shame them. But the whole country is coming to his, which is great. But I just feel like we don't treat others that are dealing with those same kinds of heartaches and addictions and mental health issues.
Do you feel like he's getting this treatment that he's, beyond something, or do you think that, or above other people, or is it a new trend? Are we moving in a direction of compassion? And
I don't think we're moving in a direction of compassion. No. I love that people are coming to his, sending prayers and wishing for his well-being. I think that's incredible. I think we should always do that. We don't spend this much time talking about these issues when it's an everyday person that is dealing with an addiction. We dismiss it and we shame it. And I maybe this is going to open somebody's eyes. I highly doubt it.
But this also goes back to what you do for a living.
Yeah.
And you see kids, teenagers every day who are either in situations where, or headed for situations like this, or at the very beginning where you can actually educate and support in that they don't end up there.
Right.
They may not have millions of dollars to spend,
right,
at a brothel, but
just $1.
Yeah. But I think that it's important, drug abuse, it doesn't usually come from, on the flip side, it comes from entitlement and, and celebrities sometimes turn to it because everybody says yes and they feel like they're, indestructible or.
Right. And you made the point on your post today too that, he's just a human who's flawed like all of us.
Right.
But because he's in the public eye, everything that he does gets, tracked and judged and scrutinized. Just the fact that, when you listen to the gentleman that owns the brothel, they said that they were fawning over him and they were giving him food they treated him like a king because of who he is.
Right.
Right. And
well, plus they're paid too.
$75,000.
Wow.
Yeah, he just that. The funniest thing that Nancy Grace said in that interview with the guy was that she said, "Wait, you have an extended stay at the brothel?"
I like how you call it a brothel.
Isn't that what it is?
I don't know. It's an accent thing. I'm like, it's a brothel, with my Boston,
Yeah.
But anyway,
Carol Lieberman, when she joins us in the next segment, she does have some feelings and thoughts about this. So
yeah, and I definitely want to get those. I want to ask her about. And we didn't even talk about this before, but I want to ask her about Michelle Duggar, and Dugar or whatever the heck her name is, and how she says that we should be joyfully available to be with our husbands at all times. Which it's funny because I just put that on Facebook just to see how people would respond, and it was interesting. But my thoughts are actually a little bit different than maybe what you would think, perhaps. And also, I want to ask her about an article that she contributed to recently about smoking in cars with kids. Is that something that the federal government should get involved with or stay out of our business? So
that's illegal in the UK now.
Yes, it is. So. We're going to go to break. You're listening to Broadscast on KHTS. and we'll be right back. When Broadscast was looking to relaunch our website, we knew exactly who to call, the team at Stark Social Media.
At Stark Social, they understand the importance of a strong online presence.
From marketing and branding, web design, and social media, the in-house team listens to their clients' needs and budget and responds with a tailor-made plan for your small business, nonprofit, or startup.
Stark Social's philosophy is simple: do good work, and they live by that philosophy every day.
Stand out from the competition and contact Stark Social Media today at starksocial.com.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Two broads with faces made for radio.
Welcome back to Broadscast.
I'm glad I stayed.
I'm Jackie McDougall.
I'm Kim Goldman.
And we are talking with Dr. Carol Lieberman about a variety of things. Good morning, Dr. Lieberman.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Did you know that you were on our very first Broadscast back a few years ago?
Oh, well, I didn't know that was the first, but obviously it started you out on a track record of success.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So you're our
mojo.
You're our lucky charm. So we were just talking about Lamar Odom, and we know that you have some thoughts of where he is and how he got here, and what are your thoughts?
Yes, it's really so sad to see how someone. I mean, he started with very little. He started actually in a family situation where his life, he could have died much earlier. His life could have been a lot more, less. Certainly not getting the fame and money, and he could have had a very short, difficult life.
Right.
So to that extent, obviously, he came a long way. But to imagine, for a man, for an athlete especially, to be found in a brothel with sexual enhancing performance drugs. How humiliating, how, the idea that such a star athlete would need performance-enhancing drugs, and, that the whole world would find out about that, is really, aside from the fact that he's on death's door, and, that's obviously a much more important issue, but still, it's just, he's really come a long way, baby, down now, too.
Right.
And when he was, what really, I think he went to that brothel to begin with, on a kind of suicide mission. Maybe it was unconscious or at least partially unconscious, but I think that the divorce from Chloe was the final straw. He had a number of losses in his life, that caused him to be depressed. That starting with the loss, so to speak, of his father, who was a heroin addict. I mean, that was, he wasn't emotionally there, certainly. And then the loss of his mother. His mother died when he was young. The loss of his grandmother. He had a child who died at about 6.5 months. And then recently he had 2 friends who died.
Right.
But now on top of all these deaths, he had the loss of his NBA basketball career, which really was, left him essentially with nothing much to do and time to dwell on all these losses and be depressed. And then Chloe, the divorce becoming final with Chloe, was really the final straw. I mean, technically it isn't, according to some reports, yes, that
they're still married.
Right.
And she's making medical decisions on his behalf now.
Exactly, which is kind of...
With the influence. Right. So just so you know, Carol, we are a no Kardashian zone here.
And we're tiptoeing into those waters. So, I think that maybe we have the ability to be compassionate toward a guy who's had a really rough life. And I also think that when you become a celebrity, which I always say is like the biggest curse in the world, if you don't believe inside that you are worthy and you are good, and being a celebrity must be the most confusing thing in the world.
Right, because you have this, it's a false front. You can't understand why people think that you're such a big shot, because you don't really believe that in yourself. And it's kind of ironic. People who who set out to become celebrities, who set out to become, let's say, actors or actresses, or even political figures, they are looking for this. Part of why they set themselves on this path is because they have very low self-esteem and they don't feel very worthy, and so they want applause from the rest of the world.
Some validation.
Yes, they didn't get that at home when they were growing up. So then, when they become a celebrity, they still don't have that foundation of self-worth.
Right.
I think I'm going to create an applause track every time I wake up in the morning, just have it play for me.
I have a theme song. I just walked down the street and I hear it in my head. But speaking of, not worthy, Jennifer Lawrence, who is, Hollywood's it girl, and she, is in movies with my boyfriend Bradley Cooper all the time. But she found out, several months ago during the Sony leak that she was making considerably less money than her co-stars, her male co-stars. And so she wrote an article recently for, oh my gosh, what is it called? Letters to Lenny. And she talked about how it wasn't necessarily Sony's fault, but that it was her.
It wasn't Sony's fault that she was underpaid.
Right. But that it was her fault
for not negotiating.
Because she didn't want to seem difficult or spoiled. And I think that's an interesting point, that you don't have to be a celebrity to kind of not stand up for yourself when it comes to finances and professional life.
Yes, but do you see the irony in this? And yes, of course, it is true that most women, or many women, do end up being paid. I mean, there still is this inequality in pay and all of that. That's very real. But do you see the irony in this? Here she's saying that she didn't stand up for herself enough and she should have negotiated better and all this kind of shit. It's a woman's thing. And now she's blaming herself instead of blaming Sony for giving her what she was due.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that, and now I do. You're absolutely right, because she's not saying you should have done this. But, I think there's... But why?
She's still saying it's my fault. Oh, it's my fault. I didn't negotiate right. And I mean, really, she could even have a lawsuit against Sony. Perhaps she wouldn't win because she already signed the contract. But she could certainly for future. I mean, she could try, and she could be angry at them at least, because really, how much did she could certainly, her worth in terms of box office draw would be at least as much as the other people who she found were getting paid, the men who were getting paid more.
But I have to tell you, from the flip side of that, I'm actually glad that it didn't go down that road, because I think it opens up a better dialogue about why women shortchange themselves and
how
why
we need to be responsible for it.
Yeah, and this is totally off topic too, but I watch Grey's Anatomy. I've been watching it since the beginning, and there was an episode this past week about one of the characters that wasn't being offered as much as the other, and it was purposeful because the new boss was trying to encourage her to stick up for herself and advocate. And they
didn't just automatically give her the raise,
right? And so it was interesting that the whole episode was like her finding her voice and finding, like, she knew she was worth it, but she didn't ask for it,
right?
And so I think there's actually a really big message to be.
And she was really angry. She was so angry that she wasn't offered this, but never once did she walk in and say, "Can I have that money?"
Right. And so I Jackie and I talk about this all the time about why women get in our own way. Like, why do we're always apologizing, we're always downplaying our importance, we diminish our value. Dr. Carol, why do you think that women do that?
Well, it starts with, it all goes back to childhood. Everything goes back to childhood. And it starts with wanting to be daddy's little girl, daddy's little princess, wanting to please daddy. And when daddies don't encourage little girls to stand up for themselves, but rather encourage them to continue to be people pleasers, daddy pleasers, and then grow up to be other people pleasers, especially men pleasers after that. And yes, that's it. Men pleasers, because those are the people who generally are controlling the purse strings at the top of the heap. And so women just continue. And guys, like in dating and so on, a lot of guys perpetuate this idea or take advantage of this idea if a woman is a particular people pleaser or man pleaser, and they take advantage of that. So there's nowhere, if mothers aren't giving their daughters the voice, or giving their daughters the encouragement to stand up for themselves, then she doesn't get it anywhere.
But don't you think, though, that even when a woman still stands up for herself, there is a belief that she is...
There's a perception.
There's a perception that she's aggressive or that she's...
Yeah, she's a bitch.
Yeah, and so, I think that, again, kind of falling in line with what's happening in our presidential campaigns right now with two women running. I'm curious because I think the response that men have, the country has to women in that place of power, I think is jarring. I think people are not ready for that. As much as they may be capable, there's a perception that these women aren't going to be able to handle it, or that they're more difficult than these other men that are running. And I don't know how we change that.
Well, yes. I mean, it's interesting, like with Hillary, that Bernie Sanders got such a big lead. I mean, I think. She isn't the truth is, okay, yes, she did really well at the last debate, or the first and last debate, so far. And people were a little surprised at that. But I think that she doesn't really, I don't think that a woman is going to be elected. And I think that it's the fault of both these two women not really being as strong as some women might have been. Other women theoretically might have been. I mean, like a Golda Meir or something like, or a Margaret Thatcher or something like that. I don't think either one. You're talking about Carly Fiorina,
right?
I don't think either one of them are that strong. So I don't.
But use Margaret Thatcher. Margaret. I cannot speak today. What I hear about Hillary Clinton is that her advisors and people are always telling her to soften, to laugh more, to be more relatable. I don't think anyone would ever say that to Margaret Thatcher. I think people really respected that she came. And why are we telling Hillary to be someone who she isn't? I mean, granted, she's not going to be someone that I'm going to want to sit down and have a beer with. But I respect the fact that she is who she is. No one's telling Trump to be anybody different. Why are we telling Hillary to change her clothes, to wear different outfits, to be?
Unfortunately, that's the way it works.
But they're not telling the men that. Like, why aren't we telling Bernie Sanders to comb his hair? Like, why? I mean, he's a mess. Like, but people listen to him because he's exactly who he is. There's no BS. But Hillary.
But let's be honest. Hillary has a history of having some BS in her pocket. So it's
not about whether she has or not. It's her it's how she carries herself.
I know,
but
if she's going to be, I wish that I could say, "Oh, I'm so behind Hillary," But the problem
is it because of her pantsuits?
No, it's because she's not honest.
Right, but that's my point.
So, but they want to make her more likable because if she's already losing people for her, like the question, then they at least want to make her. I don't know.
Well, there's a kind of Hillary has a lot of problems.
Bill's not one of them.
And it's kind of like it could kind of be summed up in too little, too late. She should never have kowtowed. It's interesting. This is kind of like the Jennifer Lawrence thing. Not that we know, or I don't know certainly, what went on in that meeting between Hillary and Obama that got her to decide to back off and become Secretary of State. But that was her mistake, because I think at that time she did have a chance. And I think now, between all her health problems, I'm not sure she's going to make it to Election Day. She really does have health problems. And then this whole problem of being too soft or not soft enough. When Bill, the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky, then Hillary was blamed for not being standing up enough, for standing by her man. And now she's being blamed for being too tough, and she should be softened. I mean, she's trying everything.
Yeah, she can't win, literally and figuratively. So, real quick, because I know we're running out of time, but you recently tweeted about a post that you were involved in smoking in the car, and that I guess it's banned in Great Britain and the UK, and then also you had said, they talked about certain states had banned it here, and you don't think it should be something the federal government should get involved.
Yes, I had heard the news about it being banned in the UK, and I actually didn't even know that it was banned in some of I think it's 7 states, California being one of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they didn't make it very well known. But, of course parents shouldn't smoke around their kids, just, at home, in the car, wherever they are. But for the government to start, it's one thing in restaurants and nightclubs and that kind of thing, okay, where there are going to be other people, you're in public, airports, I get that. But to tell parents to make it illegal for you to smoke in your car, I think is totally reaching too far. I mean, what? Next they're going to say it's illegal for you to smoke in your home. Now, granted, there should be a more education for parents for why it's, what happens to their kids when they smoke, what happens to their lungs, and it's bad modeling and all that. But for the government to say in these private spaces that you can't do this, I think that's Big Brother gone awry.
Right, but the flip side to that, though, is that if the government's going to regulate that a person can't impact a stranger's health, I certainly would think that they would take their child's health a little bit more seriously. I mean, to me, as a mandated reporter, if a student came to me and told me that he constantly is in the car with his parents and they're smoking all the time and he's starting to have medical repercussions, I mean, that's child neglect. And I will only use the story.
Yes, okay, but I don't have a problem with that. But, because there should be some attention drawn to that family and some help gotten for that child. I agree with that, but that's different from making it illegal.
But they're not in private. They're in a car on public roads. That's not, if you're in your driveway. I mean, I agree with you at home. Things are happening at home. People aren't making the best decisions. But when you are in a car, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. Even if you're off on a road by yourself with your kid, if you smoke in the car with your kid, you are killing your child. Maybe not as quickly, but you are killing your child. So I don't understand how it's Big Brother gone awry when it's abuse.
But then why wouldn't it be killing your child at home?
Because you're not in an enclosed tiny area where that child has no option of moving out of it.
Well, but that's really a fine line. I mean, but a lot of parents, but in actuality, though, a lot of parents and kids are in the same room when the parents are smoking at home.
So I will use this example.
I was a kid.
a couple years ago, when my son was much younger, one of his visits to Chicago to visit his dad, his mom and dad, the grandma and dad are huge smokers. And grandma smokes in the house. She's agoraphobic. She never leaves. The house is like a big cesspool of ash and smoke. And I had an issue with my son being there in that environment. She and my ex-husband were unwilling to change their environment and their smoking habits to make sure that my kid was healthy. So he came home smelling and reeking like an ashtray. Uh-huh. So the next time that he was scheduled to go, he was a little older, and I told him that since, they're not going to accommodate, you need to leave the house. Like, I didn't want him sitting in that. But it was, you spoke earlier about the education of families of what the damage is, and I think that's kind of maybe where it stems from, that that if you're not going to stop doing it because you don't think that you need to, I mean, maybe understanding the ramifications of that long-term effect of smoking and constantly subjecting your children and loved ones to that.
Yes, and it could also be not just education of the parents, but when the kids start school, it can also be something that gets taught at early grades so that kids even see, like, pictures of lungs without, like brains on drugs, brains without drugs. Same thing with lungs, lungs with smoke in it and lungs without.
But then what kind of relationship does that create with the parents when they're going home saying, "You're killing me, look at my lungs"? They're mentally messed up.
My son did start telling his dad, like, please stop what you're doing. I do think that there is a place of empowerment, but I feel like when they're younger and they don't have a voice, that it's our responsibility as parents and adults to try to keep them as safe as possible. And when you lock them in a car and, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think like that's better dealt with, like you were saying, by reporting that to Child Protective Services, or like in a divorce situation, asking for supervised visitation because this is what's going on. But it's just different when it becomes illegal. I just get there's Big Brother is getting into our lives in so many different ways. I mean, it's not like if this was the only thing, but it's just encroaching more and more every day, and that's the part that I think we all need to watch out for.
Yeah, I do agree with that. All right, well, thank you. Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you so much for being on Broadscast, and we hope to have you on again.
Sure,
you're our good luck charm.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Have a great day.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Kim, I think we should mark it down that you and I agreed on something. That was awesome. And thanks for listening to Broadscast. We'll see you next week.